everybody, it's Khristina from Redefine Creative, and I am super excited to have my turn in the telephone hop. And my layout that I'm starting with is this one with this really cool mixed media background and all this fringe, and it came from my friend Sandie, who is State Goddess here on YouTube. And of course, that means that it has this really cool mixed media background, which, kind of freaks me out a little bit trying to recreate. And it also has all of these cool fringe layers. And so I'm going to take that idea and run with it. But I'm going to change things up a little bit. I'm going to make it Khristina style because, that's what happens in the telephone hop. So for this layout, I have two pictures that I want to use, and it's all pictures of crazy amounts of junk and snack food. And I have a story that I want to tell with that. So we're going to go with it. And I found this Vicky Bouton paper that has these polka dots and this kind of sprayed look in the background. And I was like, this is perfect because it looks like that fancy mixed media stuff. But I didn't have to make it, which just really makes me happy. I love that Vicky Bouton does a lot of the mixed media for you, and then you just get the cool look. Because you guys, mixed media is just one of those things that I am still working on and trying to get better with. So what I decided to do instead of the fringe is I'm going to use some torn paper edging. For some reason, torn paper has just been my jam lately. And I just did a layout with a whole bunch of fringe a couple of weeks ago. And so I wanted to try taking this idea and trying something a little bit different. So I tore this striped paper into 3 different sections, and I'm going to put a tiny piece of foam adhesive in between each layer that I tore of that same paper. And then I'm going to line the stripes back up again. And then I'm just going to kind of take my fingers and ruffle the edges. And what that's going to do is create this really cool kind of 3D effect with that one piece of pattern paper. So it's going to look like you have all of this, all of these crazy layers going on, just like you would with fringe scissors, but with torn paper edges instead. So I'm changing things up just a little bit. So once I get all of those layers kind of happy and exactly where I want them to be, that's going to become kind of the main foundation of my layout. Now, Sandie's doesn't go all the way to the edges of the page, and I didn't want my pattern paper to end with that craft color. I wanted it to end with the colorful stripes. So I went ahead and trimmed just a little bit off of that photo mat or that foundation piece for my layout. And I am really loving the contrast of that with that lighter mixed media background. It matches perfectly with my pictures. Now, I did keep 2 pictures just like Sandie did in her layout. So I'm doing something. I'm keeping something alive here. All right, so rather than having that photo mat in the middle of the layout, like she did in hers, I'm going to shift mine over to the left. And the only reason I'm doing that is because it's a little bit more unexpected. So it creates just, I don't know, a little bit of a different look having it shifted over. I'm not always one who likes to follow the rules and keep things centered in the middle of the page. So I really like this idea that my photo mats are kind of extending off from the side of the page. Now in her layout, Sandie has 3 main embellishment clusters, which is my typical go-to for embellishment clusters, is to kind of have that 3 of them nestled around my photos. So I'm fussy cutting a bunch of these Maggie Holmes cameras, and I have been obsessed with these lately. So if you're watching my channel, you're like, oh, look, she's tearing paper and using those cameras again, because I just am really liking them lately. So I'm going to kind of start with these 3 clusters, trying to decide exactly where I want them to be. So I'm going to start with them in the same spot as Sandie's. So I totally have every intention here of keeping, the clusters the same. So even though I changed the foundation of this page, and I didn't do all of that fancy mixed media like she does, I really did have the intention of keeping her basic design consistent. It doesn't exactly play out that way, but you'll see. So I'm taking some of this ephemera, and this is from Pink Fresh Studio, and I start kind of layering all of this, all of these embellishments around. And I know I want to get some of these leaves in there because I really love how the colors match. So if you happen to have some of these Pink Fresh Studio embellishments left over, they match really well with Vicky Bouton. So I'm getting some of those leaves in each of my clusters just to kind of add some layering and some detail. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the picture, but it just adds a little pop of color, and I really like that. And then I have this word that says enjoy the moments. I have this love one that I'm putting kind of down here at the bottom. This is where my embellishments start to go a little bit rogue. So I'm like, oh, well, I can have a cluster down here at the bottom, and I can do all these things. So now I'm going to play with some of these cork hearts, and these already have some adhesive on the back, which makes them super fun, and they come in a bunch of different sizes in the same pack, and these are from the Redefined Creative Shop. And so I'm going to add a few of those to each of my clusters. And cork, for some reason, is just one of those mediums or one of those like types of paper that I just really like to play with. I love the texture it adds to your layout, especially with collections like this one. Like Vicky Bouton collections just work really well with cork accents. So now I'm grabbing some of this Amy Tangerine Shine On ephemera pack. And I'm going to play with some of these pieces as well because I had that cork element. I was thinking bringing in some of these kind of craft colored embellishments would just kind of add to the layout. And so I switched out that word down on the bottom to obsessed because I just kind of thought that made sense. So all of these crazy snack foods is kind of indicative, which disclaimer here, guys, my kids do not eat all of this crazy junk food at once. Like, seriously. But when we go camping, we tend to let the kids go a little bit more crazy than we usually would and let them pick some snack foods that they want to take. And each one of them has a different kind of snack food that they like. So, of course, they don't like the same thing. So each of them kind of contributes, and then of course you have to have like the s'mores stuff. That's just a given. But it really looks like we are like, when we are packing for camping, it's like we're going to feed an army while we're there. Like we take all the things, all the snacks, all the things. And we don't even begin to eat very much of them even while we are camping. But the kids just really like that it's a special event where they get to take a lot of their favorite snacks. So that's kind of the story that I'm telling with these pictures. So now I have these older stickers from Teresa Collins, and I'm not even sure how long this has been in my stash, but let me tell you, it's been a while. And I'm adding some of these stickers to each of my clusters. So there's some round ones, there's some like little tab type things. I just really like how they kind of flow with everything. So I'm getting to that point where I have a lot of embellishments and I'm like, oh man, I have completely like gone away from Sandie's 3 clusters of embellishments and really just created a huge photo mat full of embellishments. But when you put the 2 layouts next to each other, you guys, you can totally see where her layout completely translated and inspired my layout. I just tend to get like carried away and going. And a bunch of you had told me, hey, you never journal on your layouts on camera. So I'm trying, you guys. I'm getting more of the journaling where you guys can see it. Because I promise you, I journal on all my layouts. I just don't always do it on screen because it's just so awkward trying to film and write and get your words together to tell your story the way you want to on screen. So I went ahead and added just some black splatters as kind of my last detail, and that's going to do it. So hopefully you can see where I translated Sandie's layout from yesterday into my layout today, and then my friend Melissa Vinning is going to be back tomorrow showing you her take on my layout, and I can't wait to see what she does next. Bye, everybody!